Hello and welcome to the Online Trainers Podcast, where we go behind the scenes to uncover the latest tactics and strategies top trainers around the world are using to get more clients, dominate their marketplace, and get their clients amazing results. There is absolutely no fluff here. I'm your host, Lynn Trin. Hello and welcome to this special interview. Now, for once on this podcast episode, I'm not being interviewed by anyone else. In fact, last night I interviewed Mr. Jon Goodman from Personal Trainer Development Center. We talked all things about growing your online personal training business in 2017. In fact, we spoke more specifically about trainers who are inside the gym. They're still stuck inside of the gym. They want to make that transition now. They want to make an extra $500. They want to make an extra $1,000. And Jon's a great expert at that. He primarily coaches his students and other personal trainers around the world with his online trainers certification on how you can take that first step. And so Jon and I have both our differences because I am more a direct marketing guy. I love to be able to scale a business. I love to look at a business and make it grow from $50,000 to $100,000 to $1 million and what it really takes. Jon is your guy when it comes to taking that first step out of the door, getting new clients. And we talk on this, on last night's webinar, purely around kind of topics and the psychology to generating leads, to fulfillment. We talk about what types of software you should be using and ultimately what the sales process makes. Now, it did cut out during the webinar, so I'll do my best to patch it up, and I hope you enjoy this webinar. Let me know, of course, and of course, we'll be coming weekly with more of these content strategies. So enjoy the webinar, and I will see you on the next podcast episode. Hey, everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic day, night, morning if you're in the USA. I know it's like 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for coming on to this webinar today. It's going to be really cool. Firstly, I hope if you can see my screen and hear me, let me know. Super important. Just because I've done webinars in the past, the screen's gone completely blank. It's been very embarrassing. Hey guys, a lot of familiar faces around here. That's super cool. One of the biggest reasons I did a webinar, I usually use GoToWebinar to do the platforms, but I used this with Tim last week. If you haven't checked out the webinar, go and do that. It's a great webinar. And I found this really cool. So it's really starting today, and I wanted to bring on Jon Goodman. Now, if you don't know Jon Goodman, I'm sure you know who he is. I just want to give him a brief introduction. He runs Personal Trainer Development Center, a great resource website for personal trainers all around the world who want to grow not only their skills, their knowledge, but also he's transitioned into helping you grow your business as well. I respect Jon highly. I think in an industry, the fitness industry, where there's a lot of hype going on, Jon speaks the truth about what's realistic. He doesn't overhype things up. He over-delivers, and he's not a hypey person. What I respect so much about him is that he calls a spade a spade. You know, you'll see a lot of people inside of the industry talking and selling the dream, and that's not what this is about. This is about getting the truth out there. This is about getting you guys the right information. So I definitely respect and admire Jon, which is why I brought him on, and really we're going to touch base on everything you know, or everything you need to know in order to grow your online personal training business in 2017. So Jon's done a fantastic job with content marketing. When I look at his 7 to 8 years, possibly even 10 years of growing the Personal Training Development Center and the group that he has, he's got a loyal following of personal trainers which respect, admire him the most. And I think one of the biggest skills that if you're going to use this and you really want to be in the online personal training industry in 3 years and a year, in 10 years from now, you have to deploy both the direct marketing that we talk about inside the Online Trainers Club and do what Jon's doing, like put in really good, solid hard work so that you build a brand. Okay, and with that being said, I want to go find Jon and add him into here, and he can tell you and make you all jealous about where he's staying. He's in Thailand, and you know, is having an absolute blast. So hopefully this works out. Give us 2 seconds. Jon, please accept the message to come on and share the screen with me, and then that way we'll get started.
Yes.
There we go. Hey, buddy.
Amazing. That's like black magic. What just happened?
It's easy, isn't it? Like
You're talking to the least technically sophisticated internet person I think anybody has ever met. That's incredible. This is magical. Okay, we're good.
This is really, really cool. I'm glad it worked out. Thanks so much, Tim. Jon, welcome, dude. Whereabouts are you at the moment?
Hi. I'm on an island in Thailand called Koh Phangan, and I'm in my resort because the co-working space that I work out at is the Skype room is booked for this hour, and this hour only this week. Awesome. I found that out about 30 minutes ago and had to jump on my motorbike and come home to my resort to take this.
Tough life. I heard you had an upset stomach for New Year's. What was the plan behind that? How did that happen?
No, it was just a nasty 24 hours is what that was. We still have no idea what that was. Yeah. Alice and my wife got it the next day. No idea. It's just one of those weird tropical bugs. Kicked my butt for 24 hours and then it was completely gone.
You should put that. You should get that weight loss. You should put that bacteria inside a pill and sell that as a weight loss product. It'll do really, really well. We've got over 300 people registered. I haven't checked the numbers. I think it was about 350. There's heaps of people registered. One of the biggest reasons why I brought you on, dude, is I respect your work. I've been following you for quite some time, as you know. I started off in your group, adding value to the people there. I like to think of myself as someone who's more interested in the direct response. I love the strategy around persuading people and using direct marketing because I believe marketing and sales is kind of the key to your freedom. I'm bringing you on because I see you as the content king, the guy who can build a long-term brand. You're not in this to build a 6-month game. You're not in here for tactics and strategies. You're there hustling and grinding your ass off. And you've been doing so for 7, 8, 10, possibly 20 years. I don't know. And it's obviously paid off. So what you're doing is phenomenal. And the other thing, dude, is you don't overhype things. You call a spade, which I respect because there are a lot of coaches and business coaches, yada, yada, that will tell you and hype things up and sell you the dream of a multi-million-dollar personal training fitness business when the reality is we both get emails every day saying how shit it is out there, how people have been burnt, how coaches are out there doing all this and that, and people aren't getting the results. The expectations are set up here.
Yeah.
The reality is like down here. Whereas
I think the issue is the expectations. The issue isn't the information. I think the information is probably good enough in most cases. It's the expectations and it's the mentor themselves not choosing their ideal person. But that's something we can talk about later on. I think that's later on in this conversation.
I wanted to bring you on. Firstly, we're really going to blow out what the industry is looking like in 2017. What trainers need to know in terms of generating leads, making sales fulfilling. I think the Online Trainers Academy, what you've put together is very comprehensive. In fact, it's the most comprehensive across the board of online personal training. So props to you for doing that. That's phenomenal. I've had a look at it and it's a great resource. Now, dude, when we dive into this stuff, I really want to start off with kind of fulfillment. I believe that fulfillment's one of those things. When I was a trainer myself 3 years ago, I could market and I could sell. That was kind of easy because it's just a system and you get someone into paying you sell them. Unfortunately, I know this because I know that this is going to be the big elephant in the room is that when we get clients, how do we fulfill and how do we make sure they get results? Like if someone's signing up for a 12-week, a 16-week program, the biggest issue I ran into, and I know because I've gone through this step, I really want to hear it from your end, but more so importantly, there's 72 other people and there's going to be hundreds, thousands of people watching this. Fulfillment, talk to me about that. How do we get people results? What's happening in here and what do us trainers need to be aware of?
So there's two main things I want to hit on. The first is what happens before you actually get the client. Something that you mentioned, I think, when you were introducing me, is how different you and I are. You're more the direct marketing approach. I'm more of the sort of long-term gain approach. That's very accurate. You and I butt heads on some things, and I love that. You know, I love the ability to not agree with somebody but still respect that person. Yeah. And neither way is right or wrong. Right. My opinion is more you use the direct marketing or you use you basically take advantage of your existing networks to get an initial couple clients to get to the point where you can then back off your more in-person training or whatever you're doing where you don't have much time. And then you build up, you kind of start from there. you build up a little bit more free time so that you can move forward and do whatever you want to do. One of the main tenets of that is if you're constantly struggling and it's this idea of being in this reactive mode in your business, like the best businesses are proactive 22 hours out of the day.
Yeah.
Most people are very reactive in their business. And that's where the issue comes in. Because when you're reactive, you need to take on any client who comes to you because you have to pay the bills. When you're reactive, then you do crummy, slimy things. You might fall prey to somebody promising you something and give them way too much money because they weren't actually the right person to you. They just caught you in an emotionally hot state. All of these things happen when you're reactive. So my place in the industry, the way that I kind of see it, is kind of the entry point, right? Is that transition point. Is you have a trainer who's been training for a year or 2 years or 3 years in the club. And they're doing well in the club, but they've hit that point that most trainers hit where they need to make a bit more money in a bit less time with a bit better schedule. I mean, everybody kind of hits that point if they've been training. And what the heck do you do? Do you start a gym? Do you hire more trainers to work for you? Do you sell supplements? Like, online training is kind of, in my eyes, the best solution for that for some trainers, as long as that trainer is self-motivated and able to kind of work in front of a computer, which some trainers are, some trainers aren't.
Yeah.
And so what I kind of do is I really help people figure out how much money they actually need. I think that's the first thing, right? Fear is what stops us. And this goes into the client side as well. So I'll kind of bring it full circle there. But fear is nothing but the unknown, right? Fear is not a rational response to something happening. Fear is completely irrational. We fear things that we don't understand. And the way to offset fear is to make the unknown known. And the reason why most people aren't able to really push forward and transition a company into being much more proactive and doing things that they want to do and helping people they want to help is because they don't really understand what that's like. And the first step is the financial aspect of it. So the first thing that you do is figure out how much money you need. I call this a freedom number.
Yeah.
Figure out how much money you need each month, basically, to survive, right? Like, how much do you need to eat? How much do you need for rent? And then if you have dependents or something like that, how much do you need for that?
Yeah.
So what's that number?
What's that number for most personal trainers, do you think? And just stopping you on that point, I truly think that most personal trainers inside the gym, when they think about online personal training, they think that it's going to be easier. They think it's going to be passive income. They're looking at people on Instagram selling $50 ebooks and making $10,000, $100,000, depending on their amount of followers. And that doesn't work anymore. That worked 3-4 years ago. That doesn't work anymore. But more so the expectation is set up correctly. So, you know, I respect what you do in that transition. How much does a personal trainer need to do you think, in your eyes, on average, that's enough to go, sweet, you're ready to rock and roll?
I think it changes no matter who you are. When I first did this equation, I was a single guy with no debt.
Yeah.
So I needed $2,600, right? That was pretty low. If you're married or have kids or have debt or a mortgage or whatever it is, then it's going to be higher. I can't give a number. Yeah. The best thing that I can do is I can say, very basically, what are your expenses that you have to pay each month, right? If that's a mortgage, rent, whatever it is, how much do you need for food each month, ballpark, but estimate high, not low. And then if you have any dependents, anybody you look after, how much you spend. Figure out what that number is. I don't know what it is. Like, if somebody has a family, it might be 5,000 or 6,000, right? What's important is that you know that number. And then what you do is you say, okay, how much money am I making doing what I would do until the day I die, even if I wasn't making any money for it?
Okay.
And that could be passive income. That could be something you love doing, maybe a hobby. It could be training clients. Let's say you're training 25 clients in the gym and you want to train 10. You'd use the amount of money you make from training those 10 clients.
Yeah.
Right? Subtract the second from the first. And what you have now is a number that's left over. Right? This is what I call your freedom number. So now you have a vision, right? Your only job is to get to that number in income.
Yeah.
With online training, something that can basically free up a little bit more time for you.
Sure.
So what I teach people is, first and foremost, figure out what that number is. Second, figure out how many online clients you need for that number. And then your only job, ignore everything else. Ignore building a Facebook page, a brand, whatever it is. Get to that number, right? That's step one.
Cool.
Because once you're at that number, then you can take a step back and you can say, okay, I'm at that number. I know I'm taken care of. I might not be making the amount of money I ultimately want to make, but I know, like, I'm going to have a roof over my head. Yeah. Like really, how bad are things for most people on this call? I mean,
That's
you're going to eat, you're going to have a roof over your head, right?
You move out of that fear zone. So you're getting to that certainty where you don't have to be desperate, where you don't have to look for new clients, you don't have to sign up to any
right.
So that's cool. You create your own certainty from there. Awesome.
Exactly. And from there then, that's when you start doing the real work. And the real work that nobody talks about because it's not sexy is figuring out what your ideal client is, what's your USP, what's your unique selling proposition, right? Who do you want to train? How well do you know that person? Right? How well do you know that person's inner beliefs, inner desires? Do you know the language that they use? Do they use the word metabolic? Do they use the word fat loss? Do they use the word ripped or burn? Or do they not? You know, you need to know all that stuff. And so that's all of the back end work that you do, all of the unsexy stuff that makes all the difference. Once you have that, then you can start putting out your messages, right? Then that's when you can start your outreach to, I guess, your purposeful outreach to those kind of networks. I'm not so much an advertising guy because I think that all the hard work is kind of already done for you.
Yeah.
You know, when I looked at like the 40s and 50s and 60s, like the golden age of advertising, the entire science of it was buying your list of ideal consumers.
Yeah.
Well, your lists are already there. People have already organized themselves into communities that are free and public. And it's pretty easy to integrate yourself into that community. The hard part is knowing what that community is and knowing what they want and what they need and what they struggle with. Integrate yourself into those communities and become the fitness expert in it, right? That's kind of where I come from. And then if you want to blow it up, then you go into more of the paid advertising.
I've got a quick question
type stuff.
Just in there. Why do you think most trainers will fail? Just quickly, what's the number one reason at this very moment in time? I've done so much talking to trainers over the past. Talk to me about.
I think it's mostly because they don't follow their own advice, right? What's the first thing that a trainer says to a new client? You need to build a really strong base under yourself, right? You wouldn't do a single leg sumo, or you wouldn't do a single leg bicycle squat on a Bosu ball before you figure out how to sit down on a chair. So you need to build a really strong base under yourself. And if you really desire to get in amazing shape, it's going to be a lot of small, very consistent, positive, forward-moving efforts over a long period of time to get there. Right? Trainers don't follow that advice.
It's with trainers, I find that they listen to too many people. It's like if your client had 2 trainers, they're not going to get any results. If somebody comes to you and they've got another personal trainer and the chances are they want to get results, they're not going to get results because they're not following your advice, and they'll start to toggle between the two. It's like all the free resources. So the biggest thing is just to follow through, because most things work. It's just our inability to push through when resistance comes, and we tend to find the easier path and we go, wait, that's hard. I'm going to go this, and then you do a full circle and you get nowhere. Right. Touching base, because I know that we're going to cover so much, I want to jump into client fulfillment, getting clients results. I know you're a big psychology guy, and I truly think that in order to get clients results in online coaching, you have to understand the psychology of where they're at, what's going to motivate them, what's going to drive them to take action, what's going to cause them to stick, because it's not about sending them a training and diet program anymore. It's because information is out there. So how do you ensure that your clients inside of the online trainer academy are coaching their clients to get results?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, you need to know that it takes a very proactive and almost lateral approach to train clients online. Training them in person, you can be reactive, right? They say, my wrist hurts. You say, okay, let me see your wrist. Yeah. You can't do that online. So it's much more important to choose your clients carefully with online training than it is with in-person training. So that's why I believe all of the back-end work that I was talking about kind of goes into this. You need to know that person, because when you know that person, you can kind of anticipate and you can plan in advance. I'll give you an example. If you know that your client is going to be a professional who sits at a desk most of the day, let's say a 35 professional male who sits at a desk most of the day, yeah. Well, you don't know exactly what's going on with them. I mean, you're going to do your assessments with them online and that kind of stuff, but you can kind of assume that they're going to have a lot of the common things that type of person has, right? They're going to be forward rotated. So instead of programming you can anticipate and you can proactively deal with problems so that they never come up. As an example, you're not going to give that client a bench press. You might give that client an incline neutral grip dumbbell press, right?
Guys, questions for John and I as we come along? Cool.
Yes.
Awesome. Technology.
Back.
All right. Cool. Where were we? Fulfillment. Fulfillment and
yes. Fulfillment. It's important to get the right kind of client. That's number one. Number two, in terms of actually making sure that they're taken care of, the important thing is like how you're actually making them accountable to the program, so accountable to you. When it comes to psychology, you don't actually need to have them have conversations with them all of the time. In fact, I generally advise you don't have a lot of Skype calls with your online clientele. You have like a 13-minute check-in once every few weeks for basically your higher end clients, where the call is basically, how are things going? Good. Anything you want to talk about? Good. Anything coming up in the next 3 months? But what works really, really well is just getting them to basically just give themselves a little thumbs up. So when they complete a workout, they submit it, you send them a thumbs up. That little dopamine kind of hit that they get from somebody else saying, hey, great job, is a really, really powerful motivator to keep going. Yeah. Beyond that, selling the program to them. You know, it's a lot sexier to say to somebody, this is the program that's going to get you in your red dress that you felt sexy on with your husband back on the cruise, than it is to say, this is phase 2, microcycle 3, hypertrophy workout 1A. You know, have fun with the names. If you know specifically, which you should, what your client's real why is, why they're training, make that the purpose of your workout and make it very clear that that's the purpose of your workout. Awesome. All of those things are really, really great, just keeping people really engaged.
Dude, I'm interested to know what you recommend for fulfillment systems in terms of, we'll go from software, we'll go into kind of websites, into developing maybe a 12-week program. What do you kind of recommend for a trainer that's starting out? And then how can we almost leverage ourselves out so that we're not working one-to-one anymore and we're kind of scaling our business?
I'll deal with the second question first, because I think that it bears mention first. Some trainers should be one-on-one with clients online. Some trainers should be almost like a small group type model online, like a group training model, and other trainers should be managers of other trainers online and shouldn't actually be dealing with them. There's no right way to do this, right? There's no way to say, hey, you should start here, then you should start here, then you should basically take yourself out of the equation, because that's how you run a business. I agree, that's how you scale a business. It doesn't mean it's right for everybody. Not everybody was meant to be an entrepreneur. You know, not everybody was meant to build a business in that way. So I think the most important thing is just to really learn what the right kind of business model is for you. Okay. Lynn, you and I have spoken about that a fair bit in reference to a lot of the other kind of fitness mentors and stuff like that as well. I don't think that any of them are bad. I think that they have very specific methods that they teach. And I think what's important is that if you really think that that method is perfect for you because you actually understand it, then that's probably the person you should learn from. Yeah. It's the same thing with training, right? Like what I do in the academy is I actually walk you through how to build the best kind of business for you. It's not like Jon Goodman's awesome system for online training. Yeah. It's here's everything, and then I have a step-by-step process basically to walk you through what's right for you. So that's the first thing. The second thing is it depends on your financial position. If you're just starting out and you need to make a couple bucks, then you start a process basically of doing whatever you can to make a little bit of money, and then you bootstrap, and then you put that money back in your business and you start to work up. So if that's the case, use Google Drive. It's free. Send people spreadsheets via Google Drive. You share a folder with them. In that folder, they can upload their workouts once they complete them. They can upload progress pictures, whatever it is. Is it the best? Is it the most scalable? No, but it's free to use. So you start with that.
Just quickly on that, John, I'm curious to see what kind of technology is going to come into play, whether that's going to still be around in, let's say a year when Google and Apple start to develop tech that you can wear stuff on your wrists that can detect your insulin, blood glucose sugar levels, your heart rate, basically your hormonal levels, because technology is advancing, and all this stuff kind of churns out the exact the exact diet plan that you should be on, the exact training method, and when to progress. Because we're getting things like, I don't know if you've seen it yet. It's like artificial intelligence headphones that allow. It's a trainer that basically tells you based on your heart rate how much you should be elevating yourself. It's like an AI trainer. I'm really looking kind of long term to think, okay, how much space does a trainer have to use Google Drive until they're eradicated and they're swallowed up by tech? And should they innovate? I mean, is that something that you're about talking about, Google Sheets?
I mean, look, anytime you're on a platform that you don't own, which is basically every single platform that we use that's free online, you have no control over what it's going to do. So you can be worried about it constantly. Or what you can do is you can use it while you use it, but always know that there's a backup. Like, what happens if Google says we don't have Google Drive anymore? Well, then you email people Excel templates until you figure something out. Like, it's really not that big of a deal to me. And I kind of look at it and say, okay, well, you're going to use this as the first step. And then once you get 5 or 10 clients, you have enough money that you invested into one of the training softwares. I'm happy to talk to you about which ones. So that's like, to me, that's kind of a null point. There are fantastic templates. Like I bought a license to templates for people in the actual academy to send people, to send them clients in Google Drive. And they're fantastic workout templates. They're really, really awesome. But it's definitely not like a long-term solution. It's a solution to get you to point 2, right? Everything that I do, and I guess there's a theme here, is like, if you're at point 1, like I'm not the guy that you speak to if you want to scale your business to like millions of dollars. That's when they speak to you, right? I'm the guy that you speak to if you're like, hey, I'm a trainer and I want to do online training to free up a bit of time and I want to get to 15 to 20 clients, and that's going to get me an extra 50 to 150 grand a year, and that's going to fundamentally change my life. I'm the guy you speak to for that. And the way that I help people with that is, it's like, step 1, here's what you do. Right? That gets you to step 2. Then once you're at step 2, you basically decide whether you want to go to step 3 or you stay at step 2, which is absolutely no issue. Arian asked what PT software to use. I'll give you an overview because I've done independent audits basically of all.
I hope he's still here, but I'm curious as to why you recommend Trainerize versus PT. I've had to play around with both, but give us your pros and cons for both and what you'd recommend.
I'll tell you kind of an overview of a bunch of softwares. I don't want to specifically count on them because I think that there are softwares that are better for different types of trainers. I've done independent audits of almost all of the major ones now. There's always a new one that comes out every week or two. But Trainerize I found about 3.5 years ago, and at that point it was unquestionably the best software. Nothing was even close. There's been like 50 software companies that I've been at since there. But what really impressed me about them at the time, and still impresses me, is they're a really professional company. They have a lot of coders. They have a lot of customer service people. They have very, very high-end strategic minds with them. They have business development people. I mean, they're a large company, and as a result, the things that they can do are really, really special. And I've seen them evolve over the years. I mean, they wouldn't have been able to do that if they were just 1 or 2 people. The integration with MindBody, some of the integrations that they're coming out with now are just awesome, what they're doing and all of the different stuff that they put in. I think their design's on point. Like I've always said, kind of Trainerize to me is like the catch-all. Like if you don't really know, Trainerize is the best option. But it doesn't mean that the other options aren't good enough. And the reality of it is most online trainers who are training like 15 to 20 people flip a coin. Like it makes so little difference that the only bad thing that you can do is spend more time deciding between the two. Like that is so much worse than either of the ramifications of the decision between those two. And like Trainerize, of course, I'm an advisor for. I'm an advisor for exercise.com as well. And PT Distinction, Tim and I are friends, and I'm promoting them. I mean, in the book I mention them and I recommend them as well. So I basically say Trainerize is kind of my catch-all. PT Distinction, if you do any kind of habit-based training, they do a fantastic job of delivering habit-based cues. Exercise.com is fantastic for more group type programs. If you're a strength conditioning coach, Train Heroic is a fantastic platform for training athletes and teams.
Awesome.
That's my general overview.
Awesome. Cool. Moving on just from that fulfillment aspect and jumping into sales, let's dive into sales. One of the biggest things that I hear quite often is trainers saying that the price objection is either their coaching programs are too expensive, the clients can't afford it. What are some of your tips and tricks to get around that? What, in terms of the sales core, in terms of selling people into your program? If you're selling a $500 package, if you're selling a $50 a week package, how do you overcome objections, and what's going on inside of Jon Goodman's mind when you're deconstructing that?
Right. So first, I'll go back to the thing that I've gone back to over and over again. You got to pick your customers. You will have so much less headache and such an easier time converting people on sales calls if you get the right people on your sales calls.
Yeah.
And you basically communicate with them properly before the sales call happens. Like, I don't think you should be on a sales call with anybody that hasn't checked off a box already that says, I'm willing to invest $200 to $400 a month into my health and fitness. Arian, it's Train Heroic is the one. Andrasto, I have no idea about different languages. Sorry, man. So at that point, like, price isn't really objection because they basically told you that they're willing to invest that much money into their health and fitness. And they also know what it is. So, alter that range, whatever your price points are. If your price point's like 50 to 150, say I'm willing to invest 50 to 150. What most people don't realize when they're selling, and we can get into the psychology of selling if as deep as you want, but what most people don't realize is how good objections are. Yes, James, you're right, Train Heroic. Objections are an opportunity to close, in the words of Chet Holmes. The only objection that you can't deal with is the one that you don't know. Your entire sales process is based upon, or your success in sales is contingent upon your ability to bring out objections. The price objection that happens at the end of a phone call is almost always, I won't say every time, but if you've done the work and they kind of know that there's a cost involved, right, and they know about what it is, the price objection at the end of the sales call is almost exclusively a result of you not solving some other quiescent objection that you don't yet know about, which means you screwed up. Which means you didn't do a good enough job, basically figuring out what their worries are and what they really want to accomplish.
How's a good way to kind of pre-frame the sales calls to tackle those objections, such as price? I've heard quite a fair few. I've been to a lot of sales training. I know you have as well, because you mentioned the good man Chet Holmes, who's no longer with us. But how do you kind of set up, or how do you think you should set up or pre-frame the sales call so that when you do come to that objection, you kind of, and here's the thing, I don't really like NLP because I feel as though all you're doing is you're trying to trap a mouse in the corner until you're going, aha, but you told me at the start that you spend $500 a week on alcohol, so we can spend that on training and get you there. How do you like to pre-frame the sales call so that you teach and you teach your students to close?
I think having a really good application that they fill out to apply for the sales call is first and foremost. At the end of that sales call, like I said, basically your application on the net, picture that as your first intake with somebody. So if you were to actually meet somebody in the gym and they come in to speak to you, that's the job of your application. Step one is you need to build rapport with the person. Why do you think salespeople have a picture on their desk of their family? Why did I keep the book that I was reading at any point in time on my desk when I was selling training in the gym? It's because the first thing that we spoke about was books. So in your application form, you need to have rapport building questions. You need to have questions like, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite quote from whatever? Like, whatever your interest is, you have that, because that's how you start a conversation, right? You don't start a conversation with saying, okay, let's figure out what type of training is best for you. You start a conversation with being like, holy shit, so I saw this movie the other day and it was, it was really great. You know, based off of what you said in the document, in my application of what you liked, I think you'd really love it. It's on Netflix. You should check it out. Like, you kind of start a sales call with something like that, right? And you build rapport with it. That's part of the job of your application. In your application, like I said, right at the end of it as well, you include that line, I'm willing to invest whatever, $200, $400 a month into my health and fitness. And they have to check that off to submit the box or to submit the form. So right then they're telling you basically that they know it costs money. You know, that's the amount of people who don't do that, and the way that they promote their training kind of makes it sound like it's going to be free, and then they get on a sales call and the person thinks that they're not going to have to spend money. That's really important. Once you get onto the actual sales call itself, I mean, it's just a process of really good questioning and then shutting your mouth and letting them talk, and being comfortable, being silent. You know, the more uncomfortable that you can make the room, because what happens, I have studied sales, Lynn, you're right, but what I've studied more, which I think is more interesting, is like the ancient courts and how they used to operate.
Keep going.
And yeah, and it's fascinating. And the reason for that is you had this like kingdom, you had this court, and the way that the court system worked was, first of all, fascinating. I mean, the levels of it and the levels of bureaucracy and that. Most princes lasted about 30 days before they got killed. And so you study there's Machiavellian principles. You study what Machiavelli and wrote, because he studied it and he's one of the main guys who kind of wrote about it. The people who lived like 2 years, the strategic minds that they had, that to me, that's the kind of material that I really like bringing into things like sales and bringing into things like marketing. Because like marketing right now, I mean, I know that like a lot of people think that it's kind of hard. Marketing right now is really easy. And I say it's really easy because it's really easy in reference to how it used to be. Like in the 50s and 60s, you know what marketing was? Marketing was identifying your audience through a series of surveys and cold calls. Figuring out how to buy a very expensive mailing list of that audience. Then it was sending out basically a test advertisement in like a magazine or a publication or through mail, getting people to clip out a coupon, sending that coupon back to you, measuring conversions and judging whether it was worth spending more money to market to them. You know what we get to do now? We get to go click, 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 and we get 1 million of our ideal customers that we can advertise to for less than 50 cents or $1.
No, you're completely.
So it's so much easier, right? And as a result, that's made us kind of lazy. Anyway, so going back to the Machiavellian principles, a couple of things you have to keep in mind in a sales call. First of all, you're in control, right? That person has taken time out of the day to speak to you. They know that you're an expert. They filled out your form. They put a lot of effort into it already. You're in control as long as you don't relinquish that control. The way to relinquish that control is to answer their questions. You have to be the one asking questions. If they ask you a question, you respond back with a question. So if you say to them, hey, this is what we're going to be talking about training. They say, what are your qualifications? You say, well, I actually have a lot of qualifications pertaining to training, and it's not worth getting into all of them. Is it okay if I ask you some more questions about yourself so that I can then tell you what's going to be more important for you to know, right? Like you always be the one asking questions. In addition, in terms of the psychology of the sales meeting, you stay silent, right? The more uncomfortable that you make room, as long as you're the one in control, it's assumed unconsciously that it's their turn to talk when it's silent. And when you make somebody uncomfortable, they talk to fill the space, which means they bypass their logical mind, which means they go to their emotional mind, which means they tell you exactly what they don't want to tell you, but what you really actually want to know.
That's perfect.
Which books to read for the subject, Arian? Chet Holmes' Ultimate Sales Machine is a fantastic one, probably the best book on sales and building a business as a whole that I've ever read. Beyond that, I mean, you could, like, there's tons of books on sales, spin selling. I don't know, Lynn, you got any suggestions?
The Ultimate Sales Machine and Pig-Headed Discipline is, I think, a big one for most trainers, and really not.
What was the second?
No, how he talks about pig-headed discipline.
Oh,
it's a big one for most trainers.
because they'll give up at the sign of failure. Moving back to that, I truly think that the sales call becomes easy. Marketing becomes easy, but for most trainers, it's that void, it's that in-betweener. That from marketing to sales, because like you said, marketing is so easy nowadays and every single person is doing it, the quality has gone down. So when we go back to the 50s and 60s, where if someone sent you back a coupon via direct mail and they posted it out to you, they're a hot lead. They will buy. Now if someone opts in for your form, they're still cold. They're just that much above the ground from cold. So Jon, how do we turn these cold leads, get them more onto the sales call? And the sales call should have that pre-qualification tick. I can invest $200. You're in control. I truly think that most trainers talk about themselves in their training program and then they screw it up because they don't like the uncomfortable situation because they don't have that certainty that they can control the situation. Going back into marketing, how can we get these cold leads? Because marketing's easy. Facebook ads and Google ads and whatever platform that you're using is ridiculous. It's just the quality of leads that we're getting is now, you lose the quality, but you get the quantity, right? So
you have no idea how much I want to do like old school direct mail. I've thought about it so many times. I've spoken to so many print houses and distributions about like sending people coupons in the mail. I still might at one point. I just think it'd be fun. Anyway, your question is a good one, is a poignant one. Getting leads is not that difficult. Again, I'm going to start with the obvious. You got to get the right kind of people in there. You need to have the right kind of pages. Like if you send a 40-year-old woman to a page that has a 25-year-old lip dude on it, it's obviously not going to work. But once they actually fill out your application, right, you need to have a very tight process. You need to eliminate as many leaks in your funnel as possible. And every single time that you message that person back, every single time where you might need to like book a call with that person, that's a leak in your funnel. So step one is eliminate the leak in the funnel. And I'll tell you how to do that. They fill out your form. They fill out your application.
Stop there for a second, just so everyone's on page. We've got a Facebook ad. Are we going to a landing page? Are we going to a squeeze page where they go, hey, I could be interested in this. Here are my details. Is that the first thing?
Are they going to that? It depends. They could go to a landing page with some sort of an ethical bribe, like an ebook or whatever it is, or they might be in I think a great way for a trainer who doesn't have an existing clientele to basically use those client successes is to do a challenge type thing, is to do like a free 7-day or like 20-day challenge. So you might take people from that 7-day challenge and basically say, hey, your 7-day challenge is over. I'm accepting 5 clients, apply here. And at that point, then you would send them to an application form. So what I'm going with is an application form. So they have an application form that is hosted on your site or Google or Wufoo or whatever you're using. I don't care which one, pick one. Don't think about it. On that application form, once they submit it, they get taken to an immediate page that says, now book your time in with me. Right? If I decide that we're not right to work together, I'll message you and cancel it. But now book your time in with me. And that's the page that they get redirected to the minute that they submit. Because once they submit, right, they're hot. They're going to book it in. They've taken the time to fill out the thing. If you wait to email them back, well, like a day might have passed. Even if an hour has passed, they've forgotten about you. They're playing like Angry Birds on their phone or some crap. So what you do is you have a calendar link, Calendly or whatever it is, or even Google Calendar. People can book in directly with you. I like using Calendly. It links directly in with my Google Calendar. And in that link, it opens up times to schedule with you. In that scheduling link, it has all of the information for your call. And it allows them to enter in information too. So if you need a phone number from them or a Skype number or something like that, it has that. If you didn't ask for that on the application form, right? So they book in a time with you. You call them at that time. Now, what happens if you don't, and you might send them an email if the time's like basically not right before, like if the time's like basically like not that day, if they book the next day or a couple days afterwards, you might send them an email reminder and say, hey, just a reminder, I'm going to call you at this time. And you can automate that in Calendly as well to send like a reminder of the call. So what happens if they don't pick up the phone? This is where the pig-headed discipline from Chet Holmes comes in. Follow-up is everything. a lot of people won't fill up the phone. A lot of people will tell you that they want to train. And then when you send them an email and say, here's the prices, sign up here, you won't hear back. And what's important there is the follow-up. If they don't pick up the phone, you leave a message and you tell them you're going to call them the next day. You call them the next day. If they don't pick up the phone again, you leave the message and say you're going to call them in 2 days. You call them in 2 days. If they don't pick up the phone, you leave them a message and say, hey, I still haven't heard back from you. I'm not going to follow up again. You know, if you're not interested, I've got a lot of clients who are interested in my services. Not a problem. Tell you what, just send me a message back if you want to train. And then you make a note in your calendar to send them an email in a month's time. And you just message them each month, basically saying, hey, how you doing? The same thing with an application form. If you send them like a message and say, hey, sign up to train here, if you don't hear back from them, you send them that magic 9-word email that says, hey, name, are you still interested in training John? Because there's an open loop, right? They know that it's open. So you send that right away. If they don't respond to that, 3 days later, you send them another message that closes the loop and says, hey, guess you're not interested in training? No problem. Have a good life. I wish you well. And then you make a note to send them a message in 45 days, basically checking in, saying, hey, how's your health and fitness going? Fully knowing that it's probably not going.
Awesome. That's really, really cool. I think we spoke about this inside of 1K Extra when you talked about kind of using and leveraging your existing network without spending any money on advertising, messaging your 5 friends, 5 clients, asking them for a referral, asking them if they know of anybody else who can require your services. Dig deeper into that first, Jon. I think that's very, very important for a trainer, or most trainers. In fact, the budget always starts at a zero. There's never any advertising budget, and I think most trainers want to generate revenue, which is the smartest way on a $0 advertising budget. What have we got for them?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
How can we get new clients without spending zilch on advertising?
For somebody who hasn't trained anybody before, like somebody who's brand new to
online training, what would you recommend for them to get their first 5, 10 clients? How are we going to do that?
Yeah, I mean, the process that I recommend is an outreach to your existing network. What a lot of people don't recognize is they already have the most valuable marketing entity they'll ever need, and probably the only marketing entity they'll ever need, which is their Facebook friend list. On that list, as long as you haven't basically committed business suicide by deleting everybody that you don't talk to anymore. And if you have, then you basically go back and refriend them. But what you do is you kind of set a goal. I used to say 25 a day, now I say 5 a day. But you set a goal to have a conversation with 5 people every single day that you haven't spoken to for some time. The easiest way to do that, instead of just cold messaging 5 people, is to just write a tip about fitness or health, right? Write a tip about fitness or health on your Facebook page. If you get everybody who interacts on it, you send them a message and you say, hey, how's it going? If you don't get 5, or if you want to talk to more people that day, you go through your Facebook feed and you look at people who have said something about something, and you like their post, and then you send a message and you say, hey, how's it going? Because a funny thing happens with Facebook when you do that. When you send somebody a message, what happens is they become much more relevant to you, and you become much more relevant to them, meaning that they're going to see your status updates more and more and more as time goes on if you're having Facebook messages, Facebook message conversations with them. So you do that, and you basically become more relevant to people, and you reconnect with people. There's then a process of just asking them how they're doing, asking them lots of questions, and then when they ask you how you're doing, you respond back saying that you're doing great because you have this awesome new online training program that's more cost-effective for your clients, and clients can be anywhere in the world, and you're so excited, and thank you for asking, and things are going great. You don't ask them to train, but you end it with that period fully knowing that, A, if they're interested in training, they're going to ask you. You've let them know about it. So if they speak to somebody who's interested in training, you're going to be the one who's kind of brought up. But if you ask them to train, then it becomes awkward to follow up again and just to say hi again. The process then just compounds. You just build a relationship to as many people as you can over a period of time through these messaging conversations. I mean, your Facebook then, as you're posting tips, gets more and more interaction as well because more people are seeing it. Once you do that for a week or two, depending on kind of how your interaction's going and how big your existing Facebook friend list is, it's as simple as posting I have a script. It's just like, I'm looking for 5 men aged 25 to 30 who are looking to gain no more than 5 pounds of muscle in the next 3 months for a free 21-day challenge or a free 21-day experiment because I'm testing out this new muscle gain system that I'm going to be using with my online clients.
Yeah.
Apply here. And because now more people are seeing your posts, people are going to apply for this basically free 21-day muscle building challenge. You can take more than 5. Yeah. You just want to keep the number kind of low. And then those people might be your clients, but even if they're not, if you do a good job with them, then you have testimonials that you can then begin to share.
Yeah.
It's kind of that process, right?
Dude, what are kind of the typical results that have come out from that in terms of people inside of your group, your forum? What's the typical response of client signups that we get from that?
I've got a few hundred testimonials and stuff. I can show you some of those. I've spoken to people. We're doing a couple like success stories. So I've done some interviews with some students in the last week or two. So I can tell you some of those just because they're top of mind.
Who we got? Give a shout out.
Yeah, Virgil Brewster is in Ibiza, Spain. He's originally from Amsterdam, moved to Ibiza, Spain. Had sold 800 euros of online training before he even launched his business. Timothy Cavender is in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. Sold before he even launched his training, just because he was building up basically an early bird list doing this exact thing. Had 12 clients, which was $1,000 a month before he started. Who else did I speak to? Justice Cousins had a client basically reach out to him. I'm just pulling up a couple more of the names. It's usually anywhere from 5 or 10 before they actually start. Yeah. And then once you start it, it kind of goes up more and more and more. Tracy Johnson in the UK. What did she have? I can't remember exactly what her number was. I think she had 6 clients before she began. Charles P.D. Bell in Arkansas had, I can't remember how many clients it was, but again, before he launched, basically by doing this, he had $3,500 a month in training before he started. Just doing this process of outreach.
There's 94 people watching this webinar, and there's almost $1,000 on average, from what I can hear, minimum in every single person's kind of friends group at the moment. So if you're struggling, you don't have the money, do the work. So spend the next 5 days and work to go, okay, know that you're going to spend the next 7 days and you're going to make $1,000 from it. You use that $1,000. You might invest that back into your business, Facebook ads, whatever you want, but there is no excuse to not make $1,000. So that's.
I think the fascinating thing here is, it's like this conversation: do you give a free trial session with training or not? And it's the same type of thing, right? Do you do all of this work? Like people who go through the academy, they're like, yeah, it's a lot of upfront work, and it is. I agree. Once you are making a lot of money in your business, right, you can begin to trade that money for some of the work and some of your time back. But the process has to start somewhere, right? And it's the same thing kind of with software. And it's the same thing with the letter I say. Like the process starts somewhere, and the process always starts with you doing a lot of work by yourself, with you doing a lot of sort of hustle, with you basically doing everything. And then as time goes on, you start buying back your time at a discount, and you just begin that process.
That's right. It's just sweat equity versus money equity. If you don't have the money to spend in advertising or the strategies to learn how, you have to put in the work either way, and clients aren't going to come to sign up at your doorstep magically just because you posted once or twice. It probably takes, what Chet Holmes said, 7 times until you get a no, and some people just respect the discipline that they're like, I'll sign up with you because you're just so determined. So you're trustworthy. I think if you...
So Chet said 7 times. You're right. Yeah. But I feel like it's more than 7 now. Because Chet said that before the internet.
ages ago. It's 11 or 12 now, and the truth is, the trainers, if you're consistent, most trainers aren't. Most trainers will try these tactics 2-3 times at best. If you keep going past 7, 8, 9, and 10, that's where you start to shine, and people trust people who are consistent. People trust people who show up. Jon shows up every single day, no matter what, for the past, I don't know how long, 20 years, 50 years? How old are you at the moment, Jon? You're showing up that much, and so that's how you build.
I don't know how insulted to be right now. I'm 31 years old, dude. 5 years. It's been, 6 years now.
And did you make a lot of money in the first 2 years?
No, it didn't. It was about middle 2013 when I started to make any kind of real money with it.
There we go. So it comes in with just consistency and hard work. Initially, if you don't have the money, like if you don't want to spend money on advertising, what's your other option? You can sit on your ass and watch telly, or you can actually put in the work and just say, look, it's the expectation. It's understanding that, hey, you're not going to get clients. People are sold the expectations of getting clients tomorrow, whereas it does take 7 days, if at least on minimum, by building trust, adding value. Jon, I'd love to dig deeper into the academy. I'm fascinated to know exactly who it's for. I've got a course and I know what I teach specifically with direct marketing challenges and a flagship program. I want to know, kind of dig deeper into the academy for the guys that are on here and that will watch this, kind of what it's all about and who is it for? Who's this academy going to benefit? I know you're relaunching in Feb, so give us the rundown of that.
Sure, it's for any online trainer because of the certification aspect. It is the first certification in the world for online trainers. Now it's an accessory certification, so it doesn't replace like a NASM or an NSCA or that kind of thing. But in terms of differentiating yourself in the online fitness marketplace, being able to say that you're a certified online trainer immediately puts you on a different stage. And our existing graduates have already seen that. It's been a really nice marketing element. So it'll benefit just for the title alone, any online trainer, just to be able to promote that. Who's the actual teaching is for? I would say that it's for people who are transitioning from in-person training to online training, at least part-time. So you can be an online trainer full-time or part-time, right? And it doesn't really matter. It's what's right for you. But somebody who's in that transition and say, okay, I want to do online training to make a little bit more freedom, it's for them. It's for people who have been doing online training for some time, but have kind of patched it together and have, maybe they've gotten a couple clients, but they found that it's been pretty overwhelming or their systems aren't that good. It's for them. Who it's not for? It's not for people who want advanced marketing. It's not for people who want to learn the ins and outs of email funnels. We do have a Facebook ads module, but it's a Facebook ads module for people who want to spend $5 to $15 a day. It's not a Facebook ads module for people who want to spend $50 or $100 or $1,000 a day. So if you are looking for high-end marketing strategies, it's not for you. If you're looking for really, really strong business structure, if you're looking to learn how to take care of clients exceptionally well online, if you're looking for really, really thorough marketing systems that build in that build over time and just get stronger over time, as opposed to kind of the one and done, like you shoot a Facebook ad to an application form and people convert and people don't convert and then you have to do the same thing the next day, versus putting pieces in place so that they grow with you over time and just at one point like topple and tip and all of a sudden now you basically don't need to market. If you don't want to, like I said, if you want to grow and get to the next level, then you're going to need to market again. But you basically don't need to. So what is it? I mean, I have it here because I've just been working on it, but you get like this beautiful textbook in the mail and a workbook in the mail once you sign up. And then it's a digital portal and there's videos in that digital portal that go along with the textbook. There's every single worksheet and template and checklist and script that you'll ever need. We talked about selling quite a bit. There's a very thorough selling section with a script to go through and a reference script so that you can actually have it beside you in the call, and a worksheet so that you can fill in client information as you're talking to them on the phone so that you can reference it back later on in the phone call. Like anything you need is basically.
I do 100%. I know how much time and effort you've put into it, and because you are
I try not to think about
you're
that.
a perfectionist. You've just perfected every system. I've had a look, so it's a phenomenal resource that covers everything from kind of. Did you talk about membership sites inside of the module? I think you covered most of the aspects of online training. What did you talk about?
I tell people not to do a membership site, actually. You know what I do? I tell people to do a membership site if they want to basically be an internet marketer. And I use you as an example in there. And I say, like, Lynn is an example of somebody who does a membership site for online training successfully, and he'll be the first to tell you it's a full-time job, right? Like the marketing is, you can't, like, everybody sells membership sites and basically saying, hey, if you get a client on day one, that client's paying you $30 a month. So then over the course of a year, that client's $360 for you. That's not true, because the average length of a customer in a membership site is like 4 to 6 months if you do an exceptional job. And that doesn't take into account things like default payments and refunds and everything like that. So now your average customer value is like $100 to $150, not $360. You're not building a recurring income, and you're in this like acquiring customers to keep the membership going is now a job in and of itself. So it's a fantastic thing to do. It's just important to know kind of what goes into it before you start.
And I truly believe that every single personal trainer has a bottle of energy. We all have so much energy, so much time in the day. It's finding the most bang for your buck. It's finding what's not going to drain your energy. Like, you can spend 10 hours a day on membership sites, or you can spend 10 hours a day selling higher end ticket, kind of $500 over 12 weeks, and you're going to make more traction with that. Once you implement and once you have enough of a bigger list where you say, John, you don't have to market yourself, that's when you might think about bringing on somebody else to open the membership site, so that now you're pouring the bigger bucket into this bucket. And
Exactly. Like again, look at the stages of growth, right? If you want to make, I always talk about this in reference to ebooks, so I've kind of memorized those numbers, so I'll use those numbers. But if you want to make $60,000, you need 10 clients to pay you. Don't quote me. I think that the numbers are right, but don't quote me on this. You need 10 clients at $200 a month for 5 years, right? So you need basically 10 customers. Now, those 10 customers aren't going to stay for 5 years. I totally get that. But you need like 10 customers at a time. Now, if you're selling ebooks for $27, you need to sell 2,222 ebooks to make that same $60,000. So
it's easier.
What's easier, right? Are you going to acquire 2,200 customers? Like, how in the heck are you? And that's not taking into account, of course, the cost involved in acquiring that many customers. So what you do is you basically say, okay, here's the amount of money that I need to free up more time from whatever I'm doing, in-person training, whatever, so that I can focus more on building out my business and being proactive with it, right? That's step number one. Step number two is, here's how much money I need to be able to reinvest in my business, to hire a VA, to build out all my operational documentation, to hire outsourcers to make my design and everything on point, to build a website, to get software, whatever you want to do, right? That's step number two. You get the clients to do that, and then you can start investing money in ramping up your business if you want. You can start investing the money in the content and to build up your email list, right? And then once you get to that point, and like, look, I built a membership site for the PTDC in February of last year. This was 6 years into the business.
Yeah.
And we put 980 people in that at $30 a month within a week. But there's no way that I could have done that if it wasn't 6 years into my business, and if we weren't getting 4 million hits a day or a year to our website.
That's all.
Like, that's just not going to happen. So what comes first is
Absolutely.
What I'm saying, and it sounds like what
John,
you're saying.
I'm kind of in the business of connecting trainers with other trainers who are successful. Can you, on the top of your mind, inside your group, your Facebook group, are there any trainers that are doing exceptionally well that you know of? I think, with the way things are running and with trainers, coaching other trainers nowadays, I really want to find out who are the top trainers, what are they doing, deconstruct their business and find out what makes them, in that $50,000 plus category. I think that's successful. I think most trainers will below $50,000 a year. Anybody that the 95 people watching this webinar can connect to inside of your group. I know there are a few inside of mine, and I always shout out and I always say, ask these guys questions. I'm purely interested just from my point of view. I can reach out to them, but more so the people that are watching this. Top of your mind.
So, if you haven't realized, I like giving roundabout answers. I really don't like using financial incentives when I define success. And I'll give you an example. Timothy Cavender, I spoke to a couple of days ago. He was a student at the academy. He lives in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. And his goal with online training, the only reason why he started doing it is because he realized that the affluent are the only people who can afford really good fitness guidance. And that was not okay to him. And he needed a way to offer a service to people who had less money. And online training was the best option that he could find. So he went and learned how to do online training so that he could offer his services at a much lower price point to people who really needed it. His ultimate goal, he's about 50-50 now. His ultimate goal is to be 100% online because his wife is a full-time social worker and they want to take in as many foster children as they possibly can. And he needs to be living at home if that's the case. So like, is that guy going to make $100,000 a year? No, because he chooses not to. Is that person more successful than you and me and most of the people that I know? Like in his eyes and in a lot of people's eyes, absolutely. So I really don't like using money. I mean, you'll see with these stories that we're going to publish, like almost none of them are people who are making like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I just don't think that's an
online PT business.
Yeah, like I mean, look, if that's what you want, then there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think that that's all that important. But no, there are some good people. I don't know, off the top of my head. I mean, Timothy, of course, is a good one. Simon Booth is doing really well. Jordan Lark, I'm sure, has been chatting with you a while. He's doing really good. Charles Bell is in my group. He's just starting out, but he's killing it so far. There's a couple names for you.
Well, before I black out here because it's the sunset and it's completely dark, Jon, thank you so much for coming on, dude. Where can we find out more about the Academy? What's the direct link? We'll put it inside of the chat box, but also what's the direct link? Because I reckon this will go on the podcast.
Yeah, it looks like Shamika put it in the chat link. The direct link is www.theptdc.com/OTA.
Legend. Thank you so much for coming on, guys. There you have it. There's Jon Goodman. Do you do much guest webinars? You don't, do you? No.
I don't really do a lot of live stuff for no other reason than I just don't want to. And I'm fortunate to be in a position where I can do things that I want to do.
Enjoy yourself on the islands of Thailand, and congratulations to your partner Alison as well. I know you've got a bump coming. When is?
Yes, sir. She's getting a big belly on her.
She is. Whenabouts is she due, bud?
She's due.
Oh, wow, that's very, very.
Yeah, we're pretty excited.
Well, thank you so much for your time, man. I'm sure we'll catch up again soon. And yeah, if there's anything else, just let us know. You're inside the Online Trainers Club. And if there's any other questions, guys, that you want to have, just post it inside the group and let us know. Jon, thank you once again, brother. Enjoy the rest of the day there. Guys, have a good night. Thanks for joining us. And I really hope that was action-packed. I know it was 70 minutes of good stuff.
Alright, if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave me a 5-star review on iTunes and feel free to leave a review, and that way I can respond and I can take that on board in developing content to serve you. Now, if you're not a part of the Online Trainers Club on Facebook, please do yourself a favor and be a part of the conversation. That's where I add daily tips, tricks and strategies on how you can build out funnels, how you can get more clients and ultimately become a better online coach. Thank you for listening.